Hello, Minions. Welcome to Professor Awesome and the Minions of Doom. I am Professor Awesome, and today I'm here with Yifei Dong. We're starting a little bit late for those of you who are listening or who are watching live, and we're going to talk a little bit about Gulliver's Travels and Ma's Proposal. If you would like questions, you can contact me during the netcast at on Twitter at RSNOKES. RSNOKES, that's Professor Awesome's Twitter feed. And if you are listening on the podcast, well, you have waited too long. And this is not live for you. In any case, Yifei is from Gansu province in China, and he's a student at Troy. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And hello, everybody. My name is Yifei, and I'm currently a student in Troy University.
Yeah, well, we're really glad to have you. You know, Troy's got a huge international population. But we don't often end up with a lot in the more advanced English classes, depending. And so Yifei is one of the few who's really braved the more difficult early British literature. And so I'm really glad to have him in the class and really excited to have him on today. And so one of the things that he and I talked about a bit in the pre-show is about, almost everything that we read this semester or this term were things that he had never experienced before. But Gulliver's Travels is one that he had. And tell us a little bit about reading it, your first experiences with that.
Okay. So the story is like this. When I was very young, when I was in elementary school, I think there is a birthday, as I can remember. It's my 10th birthday, and my mother gave me a set of the a set of the books. It has everything in there. It has Gulliver's Travel. It has a lot of any other books. I don't know how to call it in English. Yeah. So that's the first time I read. That's the first time I read the Gulliver's Travel. The first time I read this, I spent like 3 days, no sleep, no eating, just read the whole book because I just found it very interesting. Everything in there is very attractive to a little kid because they have talking horses, they have men is so big, they have little men, right? So it's very interesting for a little kid. That's the first experience, interesting.
Yeah, so why do you think your mom got those for you? What do you think? Are they popular for among Chinese kids?
No. But first of all, my mom is a teacher. Even though my mom is a math teacher, but she is very focused on my studies. She always believed that reading more books can make you smarter and make you, I don't know, work harder. So she always give me this, give me that. So that give me a very good habit. I always appreciate is I always read books. I have a bookshelf. Maybe you can see it. Bookshelf over there. I never stop reading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she was just trying to encourage you to read.
That's one of the reasons. Second reason is in Chinese examination system, writing is a very important part. So it can make you write better if you read more. So I think my mom have a lot of thought about that.
Now, sometimes one thing I've noticed is that Gulliver's Travels is really widely known in the U.S. and I think, of course, it is British, and I think it's pretty widely known in England as well. But the part that's really widely known is the voyage to Lilliput, where Gulliver is big compared to the little people around him, and then sometimes you'll have people who know a little bit about the voyage of Brobdingnag, but the other two are things which I would say most of the people don't know that. If you were to go out on the street and ask people about Gulliver's Travels, they would be able to tell you about Gulliver being giant compared to little people, but they might not even know the other parts exist. Do you think that, like, when you were a kid, do you think that was Gulliver's Travels a thing that was known in that way among other kids?
I don't think so. I think the little country has been well known because uh, it has turned into a movie. I think there's a movie about this part, but any other part is not well known. I think I think not so many people know about this. But in China, this book is very big. This book is huge. Yes, a lot of people read this.
And all four sections?
Mm, I think so, but most people still just watch the movie.
Mm-hmm. And there have been a lot of adaptations of this. So in the movie, does it show the movie you're referring to? Does it show all four voyages, or is it just the voyage to Lilliput?
I think it's just the voyage to Lilliput. Let me see what's the name of that movie. The name of that movie is called. I can't say from here, but I believe it's a voyage of Lilliput.
Oh, okay. And so when you were a kid and you were fantasizing, like did you put yourself in the position of Gulliver and fantasize about doing some travels?
Yes, yes. So I always imagine that if one day I walk out, there's a man 20 times than me. What am I gonna do? Something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
if one day I took a plane and the plane crashed, and I go to island where no one on there, and I travel to and I travel to a country where horses can talk. I always fantasy about that. I just find it very interesting and funny.
Okay, so this is kind of gets at what I wanted to really kind of get into a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're a little kid and you're fantasizing about Gulliver's Travels and going to live in some foreign country among really weird and strange people. Then you Gansu province and you come to the United States to study in a foreign land among what maybe are in some ways some really strange people. I think maybe if you get out of Shanghai and Beijing, China is you have very few opportunities, I think, in daily life to meet foreigners. So how, I guess this is maybe a leading question, but how do your expectations as a child about the strangeness of traveling to this bizarre foreign country play out in coming to the U.S. and living in a strange foreign country?
Well, that's a very interesting question. First of all, there are a lot of foreigners in China now, but we're not surrounded by foreign people. China is very different from America because in America you have Asians, you have Mexicans, you have Jamaicans, you have white, you have black, you have all kind of people all together. But in China, it's just Chinese, and some people, they are foreigners, come in. So at first, when I travel here, I feel excited. It's very different from any other people. I feel very excited, and some people get homesick, but I never get homesick. I don't know what this happened, but I never get homesick. So it's always been a very exciting journey for me. And of course, there are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of the challenges. I think the most challenge is the language part. At first, when I come to 4 years ago, I come to United States. I can barely speak English. I cannot speak English I cannot speak English at all. So I have problems with food ordering, right? Utilities paying, especially phone calls. I can never imagine I can have a phone call with you like this. A lot of different, and my life just changed totally. It just whole different everything. So it's just like Gulliver's travel, as we are talking about. Gulliver traveled to another land, and his life has been changed totally. So I'm kind of in a dream right now because when I was a kid, I always imagined myself as Gulliver, but now I'm a Gulliver right now. I'm surrounded by people who are different than me, but actually we're not that different, but still different people around me like this.
So one of the things that Gulliver experiences, well, the reader experiences through Gulliver is, you know, he is experiencing another culture, but they're supposed to see a reflection of their own culture in the place where they and so although as it turns out in the end Gulliver really has not, maybe Gulliver has not learned the lesson, actually he seems to have learned the wrong lessons by the end, just completely incapable of living with humans and living among horses and treating
Yeah.
the reader, I think, is supposed to get the point that Gulliver missed. So one of the things I also learned, you know, in my years traveling around, is that traveling around to other countries teaches you a lot about foreign countries, but it teaches the country you come from or your own culture, because you realize there are things that you thought, well, that's just reality, and then you realize, oh, that's just my culture. There's nothing particular about that. So what would you say, I'm going to ask you to be Gulliver for a second. What would you say in your own travels is the thing that you found out about your own culture that was most surprising to you?
My own culture that is surprise to me. I think my own culture that is surprise to me.
Yeah, I should have told you I was going to ask you that. That's a tough question.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Actually, there are a lot of amazing part about Chinese culture, so I'm trying to pick one. um, I think it's just thousands years of the history of the Chinese culture. It just gave Chinese culture so many weight in this culture. It just I've been living in China. I've been living in China for too long, and every Chinese culture has been in my heart for so deep. So I never realized I'm being so Chinese until I come to United States. In every New Year, I always said that I never get homesick, but in every Chinese New Year, which is always in February, Spring Festival, and then I realized I'm a Chinese and I love my country. I love my family so much, something like that. So amazing part about Chinese culture is you're gonna feel so proud and you're gonna feel so loved about being Chinese, I think. And Chinese family is very different from American families. Chinese family is, I think, is more bonded, more bonded. This is what I found interesting about this.
So if you had to say that your trip was one of the four voyages, which are you Gulliver in Lilliput, in Brobdingnag, in Laputa, or in the land of the Houyhnhnms now?
I think I'm none of those. I think I'm none of those because we're not that much different. The only thing that difference is maybe it's our thought. The people beside. I have a lot of American friends, and we always exchange points about everything. And a lot of points are so different, are very very different. This is what I found fascinating about. Um, for example, democracy and communism. Communism. This is the biggest difference between me and my friends. We always talking about. I still like everybody got a point, and they always talk about the democracy point about um, America, and I always talk about communism point about China. I don't know if if I'm answering your question, I feel like I'm a little bit off the
Well,
topic.
so you see those differences. So you don't see those differences as maybe as big or as strong as people normally see them. Is that what you're suggesting?
I think so. I think Gulliver. I think the author Swift is trying to make the point to be bigger so that let everybody to see. So that's in order to make a satire in his book. But actually, when I come to United States, the difference actually not that big.
So it's more like, so rather than you being Gulliver and experiencing the difference between Europe and whatever country he's in, you're more like Gulliver looking at the difference between Lilith and the power that they have over things which are important to them, but which to Gulliver seem unimportant and insignificant things.
Yeah, feel like that way. Feel like that way. Some
Okay,
part are
well, let's shift.
important.
Mhm. Well, let's shift gears for just a second and talk a little bit about cannibalism. Ma's Proposal is very famous. Is a very famous letter, not really a book, that sort of uses cannibalism, baby cannibalism, as a trope in order to sort of make a kind of political critique, a satirical political critique. And it's very similar to another famous work. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the other work and your interest in that?
Okay. Are you talking about Mr. Liu in China?
Yes, right.
Okay. Mr. Liu. His first name is Xun. So in America, he's Xun Liu. And Mr. Liu is very he's a huge person in China. And before he was a doctor. He was a doctor, and when the time that Japanese invaded China, um, he decided to give up on the doctor's job and start to write. So, in his opinion, being a doctor can only save one or two or just few people, but being an author, writing books, can save all of the Chinese people because he believed that people's mind is the most important part. It's gonna be more important than the human body. So mentally healthy is gonna be much better than um, your body health. So what happened was he see that Chinese people are mentally ill. He see that there are a lot of bad things. There are a lot of bad parts in Chinese people, in Chinese characters, personalities, and I agree with him. There are a lot of bad part. There are a lot of unperfect part in Chinese um, mental thing. So he write a lot of things that inspired and impact for centuries. Not centuries. It is centuries, right? 2 centuries.
I think not. Well, he was a 20th century author, I think. So not quite
Yeah.
2 centuries
So
yet.
yes, 2 centuries. Yeah. So um, his work is in everywhere. His work in our textbook when I was growing up in our elementary school. We studied his work from very young. And his famous style is satire and everything. He used this kind of style to to explain his point, to explain his opinion. He thinks Chinese is too soft. He thinks Chinese is too soft to the people who is stronger than them, and is too strong for the people who is weaker than them. So he think he think this is sick. He think this is very ill, so he want to heal. He want to cure this.
So
This is
what's
the biggest point.
so what's the connection between his work and A Modest Proposal?
Mm, when we're writing Modest Proposal, Modest use a lot of Modest use um, use some proposal, which is what we think is crazy, to explain his point about to explain his point and to explain the situation where he found in his society. And Mr. Liu is the same. Mr. Liu use as we talked about yesterday. His work is called Madman's novel. Madman's journal, right? So in Madman's journal, uh, he used Madman's mouth to explain everything that he found that is sick on his society. I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense. So I think this is the
and so
connection part.
So what in A Madman's Diary, what's he afraid is happening? What's happening in Madman's Diary?
He is so afraid that he will be eaten by some other people, and of course he will not be. He will not be eaten by any other people, but he is so afraid to be so, because he see everybody that's staring at him. He see everybody talk about him behind his back. Everything like this. So in Modest Proposal, there are 18 people. 18 people also appears on his work on Modest Proposal. So this is very connected about these two works.
Right, and so the idea in A Modest Proposal is that the cannibalism, that eating these babies, explains the relationship between England and Ireland. That England is in essence kind of Ireland's future, consuming Ireland's future. Whereas in the Madman's Diary, it's almost as if one of the babies who's about to be eaten is writing. Madman's not a baby, but the sense of I'm the one being consumed. I'm the one being eaten, or I'm afraid of being beaten. And as I recall, in the end, he's afraid that he may also have to eat the flesh of other people too.
Yeah.
But there's a way in which we kind of consume each other and eat each other.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's really interesting to me too about this whole idea is that Swift is trying to convince people of this proposal. Madman's Diary, this is saying not that we're literally going to eat each other, but there's ways in which we unconsciously really do consume other people. We sort of take other people and devour them in some ways. Then look at Gulliver's Travels, The Last Voyage, The Voyage of the Winds. Something that people often gloss over, the boat at the end that Gulliver uses to sail back to what he perceives as human civilization anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He has to make a sail, and he says he makes it out of the skins of young yahoos. And we find out that yahoos are these sort of primitive humans. And so in essence, it's kind of glossed over, and I think most readers miss it. But in the end, he's become so dehumanized that and seeing other people as just things to be used, that he literally skins babies and uses baby skins on his boat. And so the character, he's the kind of person he's accusing people of being in A Modest Proposal, and the way I think in A Madman's Diary that people are supposed to basically we consume each other all the time without knowing it, without wanting to. Just we kind of use each other.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add?
About Modi's proposal.
About anything that we read on Swift.
Anything else? It's a. mm, yeah, I think Swift about Include's travel or the the purpose of him writing this. I think is he observed the problem on his society and he wants to write down all those and let and the to make it in a rounded way about this. As we just said, at the end of that book, he is kind of like denial in his society, and he is refused to live as a human again, like that. So, um, why would you think he ever do that?
Why he wanted to not live as a human again?
Yeah, why would he?
I think the idea at the end is that has he's really accepted the Quinim's view of the world, and they see themselves as being super rational, and everyone else is irrational. So because in their super rationality causes them to that there are educated humans, that there's whole civilizations of humans, and so they're wrong. But in their pride and arrogance, they can't believe that they're wrong. And he sort of has fallen into that. So in a way, there's a kind of warning, I think, to the reader that we can look at the people who are being critiqued in Gulliver's Travels and say, oh, yes, he's talking about that kind of dumb. They're not enlightened like I am. And in a way, we end up falling into the same kind of trap. So when we say, aha, I see things clearly and other people don't, and they're not really capable of doing it, we become kind of monstrous like Gulliver, but convinced that we're not monsters, convinced instead that we are the smart, the wise, the good people, and other people are dumb, primitives. And if you know, it's not hard to see this. I mean, I would say that most of my social media feed is made up of two things. One is people making funny announcements. The other one is people talking about how people who like them are good and smart and wise, and who don't think like them are not just wrong, but probably evil and basically monsters. And you can do anything you want to them with perfect and truthfully, I mean, I see this. I look across one another. You know, early 20th century China with
Yeah.
Madman's Diary versus early modern, or not really early modern, but modern England a couple centuries earlier with Swift. And we also see this idea taken up in Russian literature too. There's nothing particular. There's nothing on the political spectrum that makes you immune to this. It is across cultures, across time, across ideology. Is this idea: I am good, I am wise, and therefore people who are not like me are basically animals and can be consumed or abused with impunity because it doesn't really matter. And I think that's kind of the idea at the end, that Gulliver's fallen into that trap, and we hopefully that we might have fallen into that trap, and we're supposed to see what happens to him as the cautionary tale, that we could become a monster like he's become,
I
while
agree to that.
convinced that everyone else is a monster.
Yeah, I agree to that. Yeah, I agree to
Okay. Thank you for joining me today.
Okay.
If you want to study with Minions of Doom like Ife, you can come to www.troy.edu, and you can find out more about studying with me or having Ife or someone like him as your classmate. Also, I want to offer a recommendation. I haven't been really consistent with recommendations, and I really want to recommend other blogs and One that I have been neglecting, even though they've been super supportive, and I have supported them on my website, is the Endless Knot podcast. And if you're not familiar with the Endless Knot podcast, it really takes the connections between words, the histories of words, and shows just seeing a single word origin back can show these really surprising cultural, intellectual, technological connections that you would otherwise think of. And also, the Endless Knot, he has alliterative, and even Sarah, they do these Endless Knot videos. But I also recommend the Endless Knot podcast, which is a commentary on those videos. And it's really, if you're someone like me, I almost always end up listening to the commentary first before I go back and see the video, because I just have way more time to listen than I do to sit and watch a video, even though they're not very long. So I want to recommend the Endless Knot, not as in Knot. Have one of the minions of doom on this week, and I'll see you all later.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me. And goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thanks.